being with us. This is the Paul Harrell program, and today we're going to be continuing to cover what many of you have already been witnessing and consuming out there on the interwebs, which is Anthony Fauci was hauled before Congress, where he took the Fifth Amendment, and it was a lot of grandstanding, really, from a lot of different people. A lot of great points that were made, but does it lead anywhere? Is it going to lead with what the people want, which in this case they want justice to be done? We've talked about on this program the last few weeks how Anthony Fauci is responsible for millions of people dead around the world, how components of our own government actually did the gain-of-function research, financed it, exported it to China, and now China is essentially being used, while they may be responsible in some portion, they're being used in a lot of ways as a red herring here. Depending on what you believe. We do know it came from a lab. The now question is, are we ever going to get our own government to admit that it was intentionally leaked from that lab? So far, even according to Tulsi Gabbard's own documents, it was an accidental leak, but it did in fact come from a lab. So when you really look at this from a 30,000-foot view, you see that there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and my fear is probably the same as yours. It's not going to actually lead to Anthony Fauci being held accountable for his crimes that I think we can safely say now, and really you've been able to say this for a long time now, these are crimes against humanity. Yes, breaking laws, but these are massive, massive crimes. And anybody that's got anything to lose by admitting this is going to circle the wagons, going to protect him at all costs. Even President Trump today in the Oval Office just moments ago saying he's going to respect the pardon of Joe Biden given to Anthony Fauci. So really and truly, what's the point? I mean, that's the honest question we have to ask. It is kind of satisfying to see Anthony Fauci be a monkey in a cage, because that's essentially what he was when Josh Hawley is coming over the top saying, "What color tie do you have?" And he's like, "I plead the fifth." What day of the week is it today? I plead the fifth. I'm not going to lie. That's extremely satisfying to watch, considering how the American people were all animals in cages, monkeys in cages, when it came to Anthony Fauci telling us how high to jump, what kind of mask to put on, what kind of therapeutic to take, or what kind of poison to take in the form of remdesivir that, left a lot of people dead. So it is satisfying to see him there, having to jump through these hoops, but is anything actually going to happen to him? He belongs in jail. He actually, after a thorough investigation and a jury of his peers, I mean, in my opinion, the death penalty needs to be on the table when you look at how many millions of people are dead, I believe, because of him. But let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Sound off. We'll talk about it. I've got Eric Haynes in seat number 3 today. Rob is out. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show, broadcasting from the great state of Arkansas. Really do appreciate you being with us here on LFA TV, as well as the Paul Harrell program YouTube, Ex-American News, Hometown TV in North Central Arkansas through the air. Before we get to Eric Haynes, just want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. That's right, the Healing Veterans Project, and we've now added the QR code for you on the screen so that you can more easily go donate if you feel so inclined. Healing Veterans Project, of course, lighting the path to wellness for veterans who have been prescribed red light therapy, photobiomodulation, PBM, by a doctor, but the VA will not cover this. And so we're stepping in with Healing Veterans Project, and we're trying to provide them with these life-enhancing, I believe, healing red light panels that can do things for inflammation, chronic pain, anxiety, PTSD, nerve pain, everything under the sun, sleep problems, you name it. Healing Veterans Project is there for the veterans and trying to get them this one thing, this technology that is life-saving, in my opinion, and we can do that for these veterans at healingsveteranproject.us, that healingveteransproject.us. Scan the QR code, donate one time, donate monthly, sign up for annually, quarterly, whatever you want to do. Please do this because it helps us stay on the air, and it also is helping veterans. We also want to remind anybody out there that has a business, if you have a business or you know of a business owner that does point of sale retail business, we want to partner with them, give their customers, their patrons, the opportunity to donate at checkout. And if you're interested in that, then you email me, Paul at healingveteransproject.us. That's Paul at healingveteransproject.us. And we're thankful to be powered by the Healing Veterans Project. Here in seat number 3 today, we've got Mr. Eric Haynes. Eric, how you doing?
Great to be part of the program. Great to be part of the conversation today. Science, or I guess I should say, the science. Remember how it was called back then? Trust the science. The science.
Yeah.
Took the Fifth Amendment today, and 111 times actually. It was pretty embarrassing to watch live. I'm sure most of the audience would agree that Dr. Fauci is, and I talk to. I work in the healthcare industry. I know a lot of people in the healthcare industry, and he is a disgrace to the healthcare community at large.
Is there anybody in your field of work that holds out any respect for this guy anymore?
No, his name is not mentioned in a favorable light in any way, as objective conversations go. I mean, I guess Josh Hawley said it perfectly today when he said he's done more to harm science than anyone in my lifetime. And when he said that, I was shaking my head. I was like, I've got to 100% agree with that. I cannot think of anyone else, in the science, in the healthcare community in my lifetime that's done more to damage, short of, a Kevorkianite or somebody like that, hell-bent on euthanasia or something. But
yeah.
Or abortionists.
Science be praised. That's a very good thing to say. Science be praised. You ever see that old South Park episode where they go back or they go into the future and the atheists are still at war with each other because they can't quite get the right brand of atheism, so they're at war, making the point that even if you eradicated religion, there would still be wars. Because there are some people, the religion's the only reason for war, and it's like, no, it's us, guy. Anyway, that's why I say science be praised.
Yeah.
No. That is an interesting take about the fact that the science took the fifth today, yet we were badgered for a year about this is what the scientists say, this is what the white coats say, which are essentially, it's no coincidence I bring up religion, they are thought of in secular society as essentially clergy that absolve or condemn based on whatever they say the science is on that day.
What's confusing is that he's pardoned, so he doesn't have to take the fifth. He already has a pardon. There was no point, and I think Holly brought this out today too. He's like, I don't even know why you're taking the fifth. You have a pardon. There's no objective reason. I mean, and he had, half a dozen Harvey Specters behind him in their suits advising him. One guy that even had to got escorted off of the desk. Thankfully, and because he just wouldn't shut up. But all those guys are advising him to take the fifth, and it's like, dude, you're already pardoned. You don't have to take the fifth. You're just making yourself look stupid.
Yeah, so, I agree, and I also think there is no way. I think from Fauci's standpoint, even if he were to go tell the truth, even if he were convinced that I'm going to be honest and I'm going to tell the truth, I don't think he even knows what the truth is anymore. I think he's lied so much he couldn't even keep his own story straight. And I really mean that sincerely. Like, that's what a psychopathic liar this guy is, that even if he's not convinced that he would not accidentally get the story wrong and then be charged with lying to Congress.
I mean, I think of all of the businesses and churches and organizations in this community and so many communities around the country who literally had and showed videos for their customers and parishioners and of Dr. Fauci saying, this is what the great Dr. Fauci told us. This is how he said to put on your mask, and this is what an N95 is, and this is how you have to wear this mask, and then go ahead and double mask too.
Yeah.
And this is what, social distancing is, and this is how you measure out 6 feet. I mean, there were he had how-to videos that businesses were playing about how to react and protect yourself, and they were all nonsense.
Yeah,
and most objective people looking at the situation saw that and said, yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. Mm-hmm. But you did have a lot of people that were bound by contracts, employment situations, and they were muzzled, and it's really sad.
Yeah, and those that were not muzzled were actually, they lost their license or they were punished financially, lost their job or whatever. Yeah, I think initially when I woke up and I saw him I guess it was about 9 o'clock Central Time, so 10 o'clock Eastern Time. He's, going on, and the clips are starting to roll in over on X, and he starts taking the Fifth Amendment. And, you hear him say, on the advice of counsel, I'm pleading taking the Fifth Amendment. And I just thought to myself, wow, this guy, like the Constitution matters now.
Right.
The Constitution matters now for Fauci. He's clinging to the Constitution now, which is there to supposed to restrain the government and guarantee our rights and freedoms. And I immediately thought of all the churches. I thought of the churches that were forced closed, and they kept their parishioners from worshiping the Lord corporately. And then I think of the churches that voluntarily closed on his advice. I think of the strip clubs that were still allowed to be open. Think of the liquor stores that were still allowed to be open, but churches had to close. And now this guy wants to talk about his rights.
Think about the fact that churches were called super spreader events and venues, but a strip club isn't a super spreader.
Exactly.
Think about that for a
Disgusting.
second. Wrap your mind around that.
Don't think about it too long.
Oh, my congregation of people just trying to worship and stay positive and happy and do what's right in the eyes of God. They're super spreaders, but
the strip club. And then you think about the
Chelsea up on stage 3.
Everybody say hello to Rebecca.
Sorry, Star. I needed to do a better name than Chelsea. I know some Chelsea, so forgive me for that. What I meant Stardust or something. Okay, let's do better about stripper names.
Well,
jeez, I mean, come on. When you think back of it, we're all just faces buried in our hands over that period now. And I'll see people on social media. They'll tag some pics from back then, and they'll be like, my, how stupid we were.
Yep.
It's just they're all like double masked out to go to a theater and see a movie when they finally opened because they'd been shut down for a year.
And then when they had, you remember when the churches did open up, you still had the masks with some of these churches.
Couldn't sit close to each other.
They didn't want people to sing.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, you don't sing. You guys just listen. Don't sing praises to the Lord. Yeah. You really figured out, you really figured out who was serious about this whole Christianity thing real quick. Okay, hang on a second. I thought that our right to worship was so important to us, and not even our right. Like, who cares what the government says? But this is what we are called to do. This is what we believe in. I thought we believed in it so much that if the government told us we couldn't, we'd do it anyway and go to the sword. If it meant go to the sword, we would die before we would not worship our Lord. And
you can't sing "How Great Thou Art," but Daisy on stage 3 is doing lap dances over on the side. It's come on!
I know.
Did we really let? But say all that to say, because we went through that, I am confident that we would not let something like that happen again.
Boy, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because some days I think that's exactly correct. Sometimes we've got such a short memory.
I was in the airport last week, and saw some folks, a number of elderly folks walking around with masks on, and it's okay. I found myself not wanting to make fun of them in any way or besmirch them, or they're probably just fearful of other people that are on the plane that might be sick with whatever,
the diarrhea disease.
It's like,
well, that's actually bacteria, or is that a virus? I think that's actual bacteria, which a mask theoretically would stop. Yeah, in theory, right? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but
and airborne, something like COVID, going through the cloth masks or the loose fitting masks or bandanas, like my kids' Spider-Man bandanas that they were forced to wear to go to school. Bless their hearts. Trying to look up at a teacher, trying to teach them how to read.
Yeah.
And she's speaking through a mask, and they've got, what's her, Elsa from Frozen and Spider-Man masks on. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So this guy, Anthony Fauci, folks.
Yeah, most bacterial stuff is you're going to have a lot of close contact there because it's going to be either passed through fluids or food.
But this guy, Anthony Fauci, guys, I mean, let's be real. I mean, what we all witnessed today, I hate to be a black pillar. I'm not being a black pillar in this point. This is just me being real. There's nothing that's going to, out of all of these guys, I mean, we could go back to Clapper, Comey, Brennan, and all these guys that need to be in jail or need to be charged, investigated, all that stuff, which I'm a big proponent of doing. Not holding my breath on that either. But out of everybody knows this guy. Everybody, if there's one guy that needs to be held accountable, and I know I talked about the death penalty earlier, and I know that is alarming to some people, but I'm just sitting here thinking, we've gone through on this show how many millions of deaths are attributed to COVID. We know what happened with EcoHealth Alliance, and we know he covered it up. We know he covered the idea that it was that it came from a lab. He covered it up, and the only reason he would cover that up was, well, it's a couple of reasons, but one of them is self-preservation, and that's the biggest one, and the second one is politics. Yeah. Like, period. End of sentence. End of story. So
fame.
Right. We now know fame because of his...
Remember from his diaries?
Right. And he called it diary.
The idiot was more obsessed with looking good in InStyle magazine and being on the cover of GQ and Time and how he looked in his pictures than being focused on what he should.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that those things were ever even referenced, even if you want to give him a little bit of credit that, well, that's just part of it back then, but no, you can't think that way when you're responsible for what you're responsible for. It's disgusting.
No, it really is.
Go hang out with the Kardashians.
And the fact that he in his testimony today, in his opening statement, which he did give, referenced that Rand Paul had leaked his diary. He said he called it a diary, which I just thought was funny. Like,
what is he, a 13-year-old girl?
What would he call it, a journal or my recollection of event? No, he called it a diary, like a little girl. That's essentially who he is. But I don't think anything is going to happen to him, and that is it. To me, it just goes to show you the state of our government, the state of our, just because what is painfully obvious, just because our guy gets in the White House doesn't mean that we are in power. No. Because if the people were in power right now, and if you took a vote right now that Anthony Fauci, forget being sentenced to the death penalty under our laws, just going to jail, it would be overwhelming, in my opinion. There would be people that said, yes, this guy destroyed lives. He was responsible for these policies, and he needs to go. And it would be overwhelming, and yet nothing is going to happen to this guy at all. Nothing will happen to him. This was the first clip that I saw this morning of Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri questioning Anthony Fauci. And I will say, as I said at the top in the opening of the show, I did get some satisfaction out of this guy having to basically answer and basically be a monkey in a cage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Folkers says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So, I'm gonna let you go ahead.
You please.
So,
do.
I follow Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
Had some great comments today. One of the things he said, objectively speaking, though, in watching this, as enlightening as this is and as frustrating as this is, it represents the fact that he's not going to go out of there in handcuffs, and he won't get put in handcuffs tomorrow, and he probably won't get put in handcuffs next week or the week after that or the week after that. He said, his post said, wow, do you hear what those Republicans said to that bad guy in the hearing today? Yeah, they really ripped him apart. It was so awesome. What's that? Oh, no, the bad guy won't be arrested or charged with any crime or suffer any consequences of any kind at all. No, there will be a follow-up on the hearing. No, there will not be a follow-up on the hearing. No relevant legislation passed in response to it. No changes of any kind made at all, ever. But did you see that viral clip of that one senator? He even used a cuss word, a real cuss word. He's so tough and brave. I'm so impressed. Aren't you? Mm-hmm. I know he's being facetious, and I get it, but there's just that's the real rub. And for people in our audience and for us that are watching, it's like that's really the rub, is that shouldn't be true. But that's the reality of these hearings at times, is that it's becomes a mockery, because it's like, oh, now everybody goes home and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And these guys get clips that we'll watch and we'll take note of, but what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the difference, the stark difference. I guess the last time Congress meant something, even though it was, I think, illegal, the last time it meant something is when they put Steve Bannon in jail, or they put Peter Navarro in jail, right? That's what the Democrats do.
Yeah.
And I get we have this pardon that we're no longer going to challenge, and we'll talk about what President Trump said about that here moments ago. Here was the one of the highlights of the hearing, but you're exactly right. This is all, honestly, this is great fundraising for the midterms for Republicans. I'm sure they need. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure they need it, but that's all that it is. Practically speaking, that's all these sound bites are.
Yeah.
So man, you like that guy? I don't even know who that guy was. Never even heard of that guy. That senator that said the F word to Fauci. Who the F do you think you are? And I was just like, really? Like, yeah, that's what we all think, but
it was Moreno, and he was the same right. guy that had everyone that to the audience. He's like, hey, Fauci, turn around. Let me ask some questions to the audience. If you had your businesses ruined, if you had your lives negatively affected, if you lost loved ones, he went through a whole list of things that Fauci contributed to the problem of, he said, stand up. So basically the entire room stands up behind Fauci's lawyers, because Fauci's lawyers were in the first row, and everyone behind that was an audience participant. And every single person stood up. And he goes, turn around and look at them. And Fauci never even moved to look at those people and to acknowledge them. And that, to me, said everything about his response. He doesn't care. He will never come to something like that with contrition and apology in his heart at all. Ever. He'll take that to his grave. And now that he's been pardoned, he's not going to go to jail for it. So it just is what it is.
Yeah, to your point.
We've got to live with it and move on.
Your point about who's suffered. I mean, look, this is somebody in a nursing home, looks to be a grandfather, grandmother.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, wrapped in plastic.
I've never seen
babies
that
I mean,
before.
this happened all over the country.
Oh, goodness.
What we did to people. Do you remember the kids that were trying to play the tuba in the band, and they were all in these little outhouses to play their instruments? Literally retarded. Like, I mean, that's what we did at the advice of people like him and Scarf Lady. So yeah, but again, nothing is going to happen. Here is Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci's attorney that was kicked out of the hearing.
But the attorneys are not recognized. In fact, the attorney was told not to sit at the table, and he's not obeying that recommendation. There's a row behind you, sir. That's where you were told to sit, and you're not. And now you're disrupting the proceedings. And so, look, this is the way Anthony Fauci wants to be remembered. For a lawyer not listening to the rules. That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room.
He doesn't even have a microphone in front of him to talk.
And he's like, oh, you're going to let me answer your question? No, that's not what this is for. And then, of course, the Democrats, they're gonna make what they did. But again, just more context here. Remember when we were all told, to get the vaccine, and you had, people like James Corden out there singing Anthony Fauci's praises.
Anthony Fauci. Look at my head.
Anyway, this is what we are subjected to.
It's time to make new memories once you got the vaccine.
Once you got the vaccine, we were subjected to a level of propaganda that, I hope you're right. I hope never again. But I mean, just look around. You look at the propaganda that's still out there. But in terms of the pipeline of the government into these private TV companies, news media, everything. I mean, it was all lockstep. It was a switch was flipped, and we were in the midst of really a total communistic system that we didn't even know was being built. People warned that it was being built right under our noses, and now we're in the midst, and tomorrow we're going to do a show on this. We're going to do a show on flock cameras and the data centers, because people are starting to connect the dots, and the amount of flock cameras that have been put up across this country since January of 2025 versus what was 2024, it's taken off in. It's just been exponential. Then you think, well, now we got to have these data centers, and with the data centers, they have the computing power, arguably, is what some people say. And the reason we're speculating is because nobody really tells us what the data centers are for. They're going to have the computing power to essentially monitor in real time everything that these flock cameras are seeing. And, by the way, they tell you what they're doing in plain sight, because the name of these cameras are literally flock, meaning we are livestock to our overlords, to our government overlords.
Bah.
And the next time you say it won't happen again, it won't have to happen again. They are erecting a system, Eric, where the next time it happens, whether it's a pandemic or whatever it is, they won't have to get the public's cooperation, because they did. In large capacity, they did. They got a lot of the public's cooperation with the masking and with all of that stuff. And to your point, I don't think they'll do it again in as much as they did. There won't be as much
Not in our lifetime.
Voluntary participation.
Yeah.
So now they have the ability to force you to do it, force you to stay at home. whether it's debanking you or, we are literally building the surveillance state right in front of us right now in the name of public safety.
We'll see.
I'm just, anyway. And then, of course, we had.
I hope we don't see.
I hope we don't see either. And of course, we have. I'm muting a lot of this because we'll get some sort of Paramount.
Oh, there he is.
NBC, CBS, whatever strike against us. The vaccine and all this stuff. Get your shot. Get your booster. And Jake Beckett says, today is like Christmas for every GOP politician and influencer. Viral, to your point and Matt Walsh's point, viral clips raining from the sky, and the base will eat it up. And best of all, absolutely nothing will happen.
Yeah.
On the idea that nothing will happen, here's President Trump's Truth Social. This is what he posted early this morning. It is July 29th, correct. Okay. He says, many more people died of COVID under the Biden administration than under the Trump administration. Operation Warp Speed was a spectacular success. Now, maybe there's people in this audience that believe that, and I get there's really no way to know what the truth would be because there's no way to test it, right? You can't go back in time and do something else and see what the results are. We only have the results that we have based on the decisions that were made. But as we get further and further away from 2020, there surely are not more people that are saying that Operation Warp Speed was a spectacular success. It doesn't feel like it was a spectacular success to me, in particular because somebody like Anthony Fauci, who I believe is a criminal and has committed crimes against humanity, again, nothing is going to happen to this guy. But the president goes on. He says, in fact, many say one of the most successful things ever done by an American president, meaning Operation Warp Speed. He says, I overrode Fauci on this. His ideas were crazy. Also, I said from the beginning that the virus came from the Wuhan laboratory in China. Fauci strongly disagreed, always trying to protect China. I inherited Fauci. And by the way, I think trying to protect China is also trying to protect the United States government's own involvement in creating this thing in the first place. But he goes on, I inherited Fauci, who was there since the 1980s, but with each passing day relied less and less on him. He made too many bad calls, like on masks. Remember, at the beginning, he was anti-masker, then he switched to a super-masker. In any event, I didn't let him shut the country down, although he wanted to. I went the Federalist way and let the governors decide. The Republican governors did a much better job than the Democrats. Fauci was largely taken out of play, and then along came Sleepy Joe Biden, who made Fauci a king. I called Biden to tell him Fauci was no good, either didn't have a clue or was dishonest. The call was well received, but sadly not acted on. Biden went on to give Fauci vast destructive power. And he says the rest is history, President Donald J. Trump. Well, and this is the thing. This is, I think, a disconnect with a lot of people that, lived through Operation Warp Speed. Maybe you out there disagree. But one of the issues with this is that in 2021, Cernovich reminds us that President Trump gave Fauci a presidential commendation for their efforts in Operation Warp Speed. Here is President Trump earlier today after the hearings talking about the news of today with Anthony Fauci appearing before Senator Rand Paul's committee.
Mr. President, thank you. Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times today. Yes, Senator Rand Paul said he's going to hold a vote on holding him in contempt of Congress. Do you think Dr. Fauci should face repercussions for this?
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him. I went the Federalist way, which is basically let the governors decide. And generally speaking, the Republican governors did very well. The Democrat governors did not very well. But Fauci wanted to have nobody wearing masks, if you remember, and then everybody had to wear 5 masks, as many masks as you could get. I mean, made a lot of mistakes. And he wasn't a big factor for me. He was a very big factor for Biden. And if you remember, even though we were prime time in terms of that whole disaster of COVID, far people died, fewer in the Trump administration than in the Biden administration. We ran it well. Operation Warp Speed was talked about as being one of the great success stories anywhere in the world, actually. and we did a good job. But many more people died under Biden than died in the Trump administration from COVID. COVID was a disaster, but Fauci did not help.
Mr. President, do you think that the DOJ should reopen the investigation into the auto pen, specifically pertaining to Fauci?
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing the president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden. And I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful, they say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now, whether or not I sign my things directly, always, almost everything I sign directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon. But I'm not sure that he signed, he probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things, that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
So that's that then, is what it sounds like. I mean, the DOJ's already said they're basically dropping the auto pen scandal months and months ago. So, I don't even know what Fox News is running right now, but you presume Fox News is running the events of this hearing all day today. And yet we already know, just based on that clip that you heard, that the pardon is going to be respected. And Anthony Fauci just has to put up with being the subject of ridicule and mockery and shame the rest of his life, but won't actually pay for the crimes I believe he committed. There won't even be, an attempt to investigate that or convince a jury of his peers otherwise. I mean, this is the state of things. And so you really think about it. Last week, we saw a white woman be sentenced to 200 days of community service and a $1,000 fine for using the N-word directed towards a child. Anthony Fauci is going to live out the rest of his days a free man.
He's 85, too, so you got to consider that. He's 85 years old. It just is what it is, right? There's nothing is going to be done, and you just have to accept that.
I know. I mean, I know that's what we're being asked to do.
I've said this many times before. When you bank on people going out in handcuffs as this is what the justice that has to happen, you are going to be disappointed in folks in Washington, D.C.
Every single time.
And
yet they will continue to come and ask for your vote to do the same. Piggybacking off of our conversation 2 days ago about socialism and how is screaming socialism really the winning message to allow the Republicans to maintain control of Congress? I'm skeptical. I don't really think it is.
You mean screaming communism?
They're screaming communism or socialism, either one. I don't really think that's going to be the winning message because you are in power. You can go after the communists and socialists now, right now. You could have made the modern iteration of the Democratic Party as is expressed, whether it's through the big people like George Soros that fund pallets of bricks or being dropped off or whatever. You could have done that because you are in power. You could have already passed a bill outlawing genital mutilation of kids and calling it health care. You haven't done that. And so it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult proposition when all you have is the big, beautiful bill, which everybody has forgotten about. And because it was so big and so beautiful, because it's so large, it's very tough. I mean, you just think, the BBB. I mean, I don't know what was in the BBB. Specifically, I know they got a lot of money for Border Patrol. They got them a lot of money to secure the border. I know they got that. But aside from that, I mean, because it's so large,
there's a lot of tax reductions.
Tax reductions. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Here's Rand Paul about the idea of looking. I think he's going to talk about, is there anything that can be done about Anthony Fauci?
That's the vote that will happen in committee next week. it will be in contempt of Congress. We believe that with his liability, his immunity from criminal liability, that he didn't need to hide behind the Fifth Amendment, and that maybe the Fifth Amendment doesn't attach when you have a pardon in place. And that'll be a legal question, but the question on contempt will be voted on, and then there's a question of whether or not the Department of Justice will take that up. You know, I've recommended before for his criminal prosecution, and neither the Biden DOJ nor the Trump DOJ have taken it up. All I can do is recommend prosecution. I can't initiate a prosecution.
But did you find anything incriminating in the diary entries?
I think to me there's a lot of interest. Obviously that he was using 8 personnel in NIH to advocate for monetary rewards. When there was a question of the monetary rewards, he was responding, you know, we have to get to yes on this. And it's not an insignificant amount of money. We're not talking about a $100 award and a dinner certificate.
So, yeah, I mean, all of this is, I mean, the vote he's talking about is contempt of Congress. Mm-hmm. Okay. Even if that flies and the DOJ goes after him for that, that's up to maximum 1 year in jail. 1 year in jail. So, again, 7 million people dead across the
like I said
planet.
earlier, Fauci had half a dozen Harvey Specters behind him that would never allow him to see the inside of a prison cell for 1 minute.
I think it's really sad, too, though,
year.
because the other thing here is the reason you punish people for crimes they commit, especially when you're in a position of authority and power. Rob reminding us that he was the highest paid employee in all of the government, is so that you create a poster child for other people to never do that again. Mm-hmm. And right now, if you are a conniving sociopath, that in Fauci's case, I think a lot of these guys, because they're not Christians, are terrified of dying. So they have a totally different view of to them to die is not to gain, as the Bible says. For Christians, to die is actually to gain. You know, if you're one of these people in government and you're looking at this, you're like, man, I can continue with this whole project. I can continue with this entire way of thinking. I can have contempt for the majority of Americans. I can lead like an intellectual who knows better how to live the lives of an individual than they live themselves. I can presume that authority. I can take that authority. I can do all of that. I can even get rich in the process. And at the end of the day, even if I'm dumb enough to be caught, if I'm arrogant enough to be caught, I'm only going to be hauled in front of Congress and ridiculed. I'm still going to keep my wealth, and I'm still going to keep my reputation with the left that, you know, thinks that this is just some sort of witch hunt because they still worship you as some sort of scientific, God in a white coat. So I don't have. There's nothing positive about what happened today, in my opinion. There's nothing positive because it's just a circus. It's a circus meant for our entertainment. And I mean, you know, and I am, you know, broadcasting. We're covering it because it's the news. Maybe this is the only thing funny about it.
5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, 5. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? 5. I have a secret document that I think you need to say. 5.
Yeah. Something to lighten the mood. Something to just shake me out of my disgust with this entire process.
Sure.
Dave Chappelle certainly can do that. Even John Fetterman throwing shade on the official narrative. How long, Eric, before John Fetterman becomes a Republican? Honest question.
He's getting pushed.
He really doesn't like how the people on the Democrat side won't support Israel. Obviously, there's people on the right that are skeptical about the Israeli-U.S. foreign policy being baked in.
I didn't see this today.
But
he put on a suit?
He actually put on a suit, which makes me also. As soon as I saw him in a suit, I thought, this guy may be about to become a Republican. Why? Because he had to know he was going to be on camera.
Hey, he can wear hoodies if he wants to come over and vote on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah, but
on everything.
All right, here's Fetterman.
It's not about much more your regrets, but I have one, and that is early on that there was the theory that the virus could have emerged from the lab. And early on, that became like a right-wing kinds of theory. And I thought it seemed to make sense. Now, there was a really advanced lab that was close by, and then you have this unknown virus out. So, but that became a very partisan thing. And now it seems now it's more and more emerging theory that would have come from the lab. Now, I think that the next time our nation's facing something like this, we are not become, as I might have been, blinded by the partisan idea that.
Again, that's all the clip I have. Basically saying that he was blinded. I mean, Fetterman here is admitting I was blinded by the partisan politics of it all, and bought into the right-wing conspiracy theory that it came from a lab and it wasn't some sort of what do they claim it was, a bat market, wet market with a pangolin, whatever, pangolin. So ridiculous.
I still have the pictures on my phone from January of 2020 when that was the narrative being pushed out, was that this farmer's market, basically, where they sell dead bats in China for people to eat, that was where everything originated from. Mm-hmm. That was his story. These wet markets.
Yep.
Total nonsense.
And I'm just total lie. I'm gonna throw this out there because we're gonna go into
it's just a lie.
We're gonna go into Ukraine, Russia later, but I'm just gonna throw this out there and we can pick it up here in a minute. But if it is in fact true, I'm gonna say this: if Russia and Vladimir Putin are convinced that it came from a lab in China, but the research was done in America, then it was outsourced to China. I can foresee have foreseen a future scenario where the 30 bioweapons labs that are in Ukraine do the same thing and blame the outbreak on some right across the border from Ukraine, some podunk Russian town where they make up some story about it was poisoned caviar, and the drunk Russians on vodka just didn't know how to handle the caviar, and the virus sprang up from fish eggs or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people still believe that one of the reasons Vladimir Putin went into Ukraine was because of those U.S.-funded bioweapons labs, and the idea of another pandemic. This time being blamed on Russia, the way our pandemic is blamed on China. And again, I'm not saying China wasn't responsible in some way, shape, or form. They don't have a monolithic government, just like we don't have a monolithic government. But only blaming China is a red herring because it absolves, and that's the whole problem with this.
Yeah.
I mean, President Trump can say, he can say, look, I did not rely on Anthony Fauci. But do you agree with that? I mean, I don't know what was going on behind closed doors, but I was there every afternoon for those press conferences, those first 2 weeks. Those first 2 weeks
at the Capitol?
With Mike Pence,
yes.
Deborah Birx in her scarf, Anthony Fauci, and Donald Trump. And we were all there. And the entire nation, is it 4 o'clock? I think it was every day at like 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Me and my family, we would gather around the TV and we would listen.
Yeah.
And you know who was doing most of the talking? President Trump did most of the talking, but Anthony Fauci would always come to the podium. And he was put out there as this authority figure. And that's the guy that funded the EcoHealth Alliance that created the virus in the first place. It is literally a movie script, and he should be in jail for it. And don't even get me started on Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and the vaccine, and the spike protein, and the mRNA, and all of it. Don't even get me started on that. Because that's the other part of this, that if you crack Anthony Fauci, you also crack all of Big Pharma, because that's where it leads.
That was a little bit of a frustrating aspect of today's little conference there with President Trump taking a little bit of a victory lap for Operation Warp Speed. It was like, yeah, that opened up a lot of things because there was a vaccine, but the vaccine wasn't the thing. So Operation Warp Speed was all about getting an mRNA vaccine out to be approved as quickly as possible to treat COVID, and we, quote, opened up, unquote, faster than a lot of other countries. But that's not something to take a victory lap over, and we know that now. I mean, so President Trump, like, don't use that as like a point of pride now.
But he has
the
been.
Data doesn't support that was valid. And Dr. Fauci and Rachel Maddow and all these others got on TV and said, and you know what's great about this vaccine is once you take it, you can't spread it and you can't get it again.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it was like, wrong. That's 100% wrong. There are people that have had it multiple times and it will still spread. So stop. But that didn't happen. This is my annual reminder of what Fauci said. This was on my phone from February.
Oh, it's a picture of bats.
February. This was the clip, the snapshot that I took and sent to my wife and other friends saying, this is the word that's coming out of D.C., is that these bat farmers markets where we have okra and corn and peaches, they have bats. And there were bats infected with this virus that's now going to plague the world. Those were the kind of messages I was sending to, because that's what the healthcare community was being told. I'm embarrassed of that now. It's frustrating. We didn't know any better. And that's why I think it's good to have this stuff going on now, because we can't say we didn't. If they try to start this crap again, we don't have an excuse. Like, we know we are sheep, but if we let something like this happen again, it's on us.
100%. And I'll just remind you, I thought of something when you were talking there. Kamala Harris in the debate with Mike Pence says, "Oh, I'm never taking Trump's vaccine. I'm never taking this vaccine." And then, of course, they get 80 million votes.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, no, take it, because Big Pharma, because this was the rollout, this was the goal. And never heard of the phrase the word myocarditis before the vaccine rollout started. So, not to mention the sudden deaths and everything else. So, but here's how the left is responding. So I was singing TMZ's praises the other day just because their DC branch has been getting some really interesting clips. But here's the Shadow of Ezra says this is Harvey Levin, who is mentioned in the Epstein files. He throws that in there. Is going to bat for Anthony Fauci today.
Anthony Fauci, over a period of decades, has been an amazing public servant. In the 80s, I had many friends who died of AIDS, a horrible, painful death. And I had friends who lived because of Anthony Fauci, because he was willing to
Brother, let me tell you something. Many people
That's a great brag right there.
Yeah, many people think that they lived in spite of Anthony Fauci and the drug that he was giving them, similar to remdesivir that actually killed people. So
experimental drugs in a different way than they had looked at them before, and that really resulted in lives saved. And he has done so many other things in his career,
like funding
to thwart
a novel respiratory virus,
to save lives, not just in the United States, but all over the world. He has been a dedicated public servant.
Yeah, so there are still people on the left that are that brainwashed. Whether or not he believes that or not, there's tons of people that believe this guy
Some of
is
the
telling the
Democrats
truth.
in that hearing today were trying to desperately to give him passes and to do the whole he tried valiantly and sacrificially. He tried. He was just doing what he thought was best. He was just following the science. You know, he was just following the data.
Well, here's a portion of the clip that we do need to talk about because, as you watch this next clip, I want you to understand, like, as we've talked about on the show, it's, near 99% certainty nothing is going to happen to Anthony Fauci. Listen to this.
NIH funded putting aborted babies' fingers and scalps off the heads of aborted babies and putting them into the backs of research mice. The scalps later grew fine baby hair in the mice. They even included those disgusting photos in their research paper that you funded. Not all of those were research on coronaviruses, but some were. Thankfully, the current NIH director has said no more.
Literally,
of this.
Fauci looks like a comic book villain right here. I'm just throwing that out there.
He's Dr. Doom.
Dr. Fauci, yes or no? Do you think that human aborted parts should be put into mice for coronavirus research?
The advice of counsel,
Okay,
I
I
respect.
would have actually loved to get that. I would have loved to have actually gotten an answer on that. These people are Dr. Frankenstein. Like we were listening to people give us life advice day to day, how to live your life day to day in a pandemic by people that are funding the most grotesque experience and really experiments that saying that they devalue human life is an understatement. But you mentioned earlier, we're sheep and the whole flock camera thing, like that this is really how they look at humanity. They look at humanity as that they are superior. They are superior to us, and we are their subjects. We are their lab subjects. And the lack of real clinical testing on that vaccine, the truth of the matter is the rollout of the vaccine to the public was the clinical trial of the technology. And that's being charitable because, there's obviously many other people that think that all of the ailments were the feature, not the bug, that was the point of the vaccine.
And now there's plenty of people like me, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out. I know we got yourself and a lot of other audience members that were completely anti-vax, and I want to say I respect that, but I had to take it. I had to take it so that I could go into hospitals and do my job every day. I didn't have a choice. I guess technically I did, but I loved what I do. I love my job. And so now I have one initial vaccine and 2 boosters in me. And there are days where I wake up and I'm just wondering, like, I don't have a history of, bad illnesses in my family. I don't have any pre-existing conditions right now and consider myself fairly healthy. But I look at the rest of my life, I will wonder if someday something will happen to me and I won't have been prepared for it and I couldn't have done anything to prevent it other than make a different decision, or years ago in my career.
Wow.
So it's a tough reality for a lot of people, and I do have colleagues and friends that are suffering from heart conditions that they have no business suffering from because it's not in their history.
Yeah.
It's not like grandma and granddad and my parents had it either. They're just like, why the heck am I having heart problems right now? I'm 52 or I'm 38.
Did they correlate it to the shot? Most of them?
They're never going to be able to have that documented yet.
No. What I meant is, in their opinion, do they say, I think this was the shot?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So they don't have like a scientific correlation. It's just
it is a sobering reality too, because there is no other explanation that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Eric, first of all, man, thank you for sharing that because I know that it can be stigmatized or whatever, but there are millions of people just like you, as you said, that did it to keep their job, and now I'm thankful that you are as healthy as you are right now, and of course none of us are guaranteed tomorrow in any context. I mean, I know of a minister that does mission work overseas, and in order to go do this mission work, he does it a couple times a year. Mm-hmm. In order to go do this, he had to take the shot, and he weighed it, and he said, "You know what? I think I'm supposed to still continue being a missionary overseas. And so he waited and said, I'm going to get it. And so he got it. Thankfully, so far, he's okay too.
Yeah.
So, but that is not the case for everybody. That's for sure. Guys, sound off in the comments. Tell us what you think. We're going to reset here, take a break. I know you've got to get out of here in about 30 minutes. I want to talk a little bit more about Russia and Ukraine and what happened yesterday with Lindsey Graham's funeral. Some people are speculating, will we look back on yesterday and will we understand that it was the beginning of World War III? I know that sounds hyperbolic or sensational, but it is something that I'm actually considering. So we'll talk about it. I'll lay out my reasoning when we come back. This is the Paul Harrell Program. Don't go anywhere. Back in a minute.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red 5 works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the Mush Puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about a year and a half ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us, broadcasting from the great state of Arkansas. I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by Healing Veterans Project, and you need to go to healingveteransproject.us if you want to contribute. We're trying to give veterans red light panels. Photobiomodulation, real medicine that works a lot better, I think, than getting veterans hooked on opioids and that sort of thing. The VA will readily prescribe that, but they won't allow doctors, who have prescribed this stuff to veterans. They won't pay for the panels. So we figured, hey, well, we'll launch a charity and we'll let other people do it for them. You can scan the QR code. That's what I recommend you doing. Scan that QR code on your screen, and it'll take you to the donation platform where you can donate monthly. It's tax deductible. You'll get an email with your tax deductible letter. You can do it monthly, yearly, annually, one time, whatever you want. And if you're a business owner or you know of a business owner, please give them my information. We're trying to partner with businesses, retail businesses, that at their point of sale, we can come alongside you and say, hey, will you donate $1 to Healing for Veterans? And we would love to talk to you about that. We can make that happen, and there's a couple different ways we can do it. And so if you're interested, please email me, paul@healingveteransproject.us. That's paul@healingveteransproject.us. You see it there on your screen. And again, if you want to donate, scan the QR code and become part of this movement that is literally lighting the path for veterans to heal and deal with their chronic pain, their fatigue, their nerve pain, their, I think, even anxiety, PTSD. So check it out. Eric is in seat number 3 with me today. Eric, man, I really appreciate you opening up. I appreciate you being a part of the conversation.
Great conversation so far, man.
I want to transition from
tough day.
What's going on in Fauci. Yeah, it's a tough day with the whole Fauci situation. I want to transition from that to talk about World War III, though. We've been covering this for a while, and but only in the last couple of days did we cover the fact that Laura Loomer, who is a conservative influencer on the right, who has been a staunch critic of Ukraine for the last several years, specifically under Biden and giving all of our money to Ukraine, she has gone on a basically an apology and promotional tour in Ukraine, sitting down with Volodymyr Zelensky, sitting down with, hang on one second, this door right here bothers me, it's in the shot, sitting down with this general,
that's my fault,
Andrei Belitsky. I mean, just doing everything she can to talk about how amazing Ukraine is and how now we got to fight Russia. And so it's obvious that there is a effort up front to get, at a bare minimum, to get Republicans on board with funding Volodymyr Zelensky and fighting Russia. Now, this is happening with the background being that Ukraine reportedly attacked a Iranian vessel. Iran is saying they're going to respond. This is also happening at a time where the entire Middle East is attacking one another. We now have Yemen and the Saudi Arabia back at it. We have Iran launching missiles at the base in Jordan. We have people saying we've got to have ground troops, that it's just the only way. There are still people out there that want us to just nuke Iran. Again, a country of 7 million Christians, 92 million people, 7 million Christians. They're saying no, it'll just be Pickaxe Mountain. Anyway, it would be absolutely crazy if we wake up one day and we go back and we listen to the campaign of 2024 where we all can agree there's a reason Nikki Haley didn't get the nomination. If we wake up one day and there's been a nuclear bomb dropped on Iran, I don't know how. I think you're in the history books for the wrong reasons at that point, not the reasons that we would want. So I think it's a very real deal. What I am now seeing, though, is a potential where, and I have always linked these two together. You can go back and watch the shows that I did. I've always linked peace between Ukraine and Russia with peace in the Middle East, especially going into 2024 and into 2025. I always thought, man, if there is peace between Russia, that's why there is such a deep state NATO allergy to peace between Russia and Ukraine, because those same influences want, in my opinion, the same influences that want war, I've always said this, between Russia and Ukraine to continue in some never-ending war, are the same people that think a 20-year war in Iran would be a good thing as well. And I've always said this. And I always thought that there would not be a war break out of the Middle East if there could be peace secured. Now you got to go back and remember that in Donald Trump's first year, he made peace between Vladimir Putin, Russia, and Ukraine a top priority, and there were several attempts to get it done, and I believe it was sabotaged at every turn. And now there's a movement to get us to support it, somehow to inject this into the MAGA internet sphere. And I don't think it's going to work at all because, I mean, we all know that the problems that we have with Zelensky in Ukraine, which is this uniparty money laundering depot that we send money to, and it gets, I think, siphoned to European countries. I think it's even what helps them rig their own elections in Europe. I don't think Europe has leaders that actually represent the people at all. This is just my opinion, but it's the truth. And you look at Europe and you look at NATO and you look at how communistic they are, you look at how godless they are, you look at how they arrest people for social media posts. It is insane. I was hoping the one silver lining we got out of the Israel-Iran-American conflict would be Donald Trump slamming NATO for not helping, and maybe we would leave NATO. There appears to be an effort to stop any of those discussions and tie it all in together and just have us a good old-fashioned World War III. And really, when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia thing, we'll basically be picking up where we left off in World War II, actually dealing with the Soviets instead of using them. Of course, they're no longer the Soviet Union. That's another thing. You got to wonder, and I know I'm going on a rant here, but you got to wonder, as people are souring on this war between Israel and Iran and America, which they are, and many people like me, I was never for it to begin with. I voted for Trump because I thought this wasn't going to happen. You got to wonder if they're saying, you know what, we got to get it into the people on the right's minds that Russia today is the same Soviet Union that inspired movies like Rocky IV and Red Dawn. We got to bring the 1980s back. And we gotta do this because if we can keep that war going, then it'll bleed over into the Middle East war, and we can actually remove Iran as a regional power. Well, you and I both know, we've talked about this ad nauseum, or at least I believe in the people that I've talked to, you can't remove Iran as a regional power without ground troops or nuclear weapons. I don't think it's possible. So we're talking about thousands of American lives to be able to do this. And this is not what I didn't sign up for anything, but this is not what I voted for.
By the way, can we just keep the movie conversation going too? Let's add Hunt for Red October.
Yes.
Let's add Rambo 2
Yes.
because actually it was the Russians
really
that were the ones.
I'm not familiar with
the POW camps.
I'm familiar with
Rambo 2.
Okay, I'm familiar with First Blood more so than I am the Rambo sequels.
Yeah, I mean the list could go on and
Some
on.
things
and
don't
on.
react too well to bullets.
One ping only, please.
One ping only. Yeah, so you're exactly right. So that's
the movie when I was a kid I learned what defecting is.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's going to defect. Oh, Captain Ramius is going to defect. Oh, boy. He's going to come over to the USA.
Were we talking about the actor that just passed away?
Right.
The first
Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, right. Yeah, he's in that movie.
I would like to have seen Montana. I'm sorry. That was a bad one.
No, I like
Should've
it.
picked a better
No,
line
I like it. I
for
really
that
do. I
movie.
like it. It's anything lightening the mood right now. Got to be a black pill bulimic with me. We need to vomit up the black pill and take the white pill, everybody.
At least we have
God
our
is
great
in control.
80s and 90s movies.
Yeah, and those are great movies
to enjoy.
But
geopolitics, the Russians were always the bad guys.
Yeah, and geopolitics has changed.
Yeah.
You know, geopolitics is different now.
Yeah.
Not to say that Russia's, a benign power or anything. They're not. But they also have way more nuclear weapons than Iran. Like, even if Iran has a nuclear weapon, which some people speculate they do, even if they were to get a nuclear weapon, it would be a very small one compared to Russia's massive nuclear weapons. What in the world are we doing? So let me throw this up on the screen here.
Yeah.
This is from The Last Refuge, Sundance Conservative Treehouse. Laura Loomer writes this. First, we'll get it. She says, in the frontline city of Kharkiv, Ukraine, I just met the renowned general Andriy Beletsky, founder of the Azov Battalion. Now, the Azov Battalion is the Nazi battalion that everybody on the right in the Biden administration were saying, hey, we know these guys are Nazis. Matter of fact, I believe there is credible reporting that to suggest that there were members of the Azov Battalion on the ground in Charlottesville during the Very Fine People hoax. There's actual evidence out there. It's not necessarily conclusive that Azov was there to make it more white supremacist than it was.
What?
I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. You can go look this stuff up, folks. So anyway, the founder, so she used to call the Volodymyr Zelensky a Nazi. And now she's saying the Azov Battalion, which was in the news about, being a Nazi organization, the commander of the 3rd Army Corps in Ukraine. Combat operations against Russia are ongoing just 30 kilometers from Kharkiv in Russia. Now, The Last Refuge points out that General Andriy Beletsky was convicted and sentenced to prison for attempting to murder an investigative journalist who wrote about the rise of fascism in Ukraine. But after the armed Maidan coup in Ukraine in 2014, Beletsky was released. And then he founded the Nazi Azov Battalion. Loomer now advocates for him. Now, why in the world would she be doing this and have such an about face in her positions? Well, she is a staunch supporter of war in the Middle East and getting rid of Iran. She's a staunch supporter of that. And so just on that alone, there is an effort afront to somehow tie these two. I always think they have been tied together, but I thought it was in terms of peace. No, they're now being tied together to basically encompass everybody. That's why now Iran and Ukraine are engaged in kinetic activities against one another. Again, Viva Frey, who's very skeptical of Laura Loomer, saying, in fairness, I must ask directly at Laura Loomer, is this AI? Here is Laura Loomer at a drone factory. I think she said that this wasn't AI, but she's essentially, let's see. Let's listen here, see if we can pipe this in through the systems here.
Against authoritarianism, we're going to deploy the drone to the front lines so that it can be used to kill Russians. So rest in peace, Senator Lindsey Graham, a defender for freedom and liberty all around the world.
So Lindsey was at a drone factory, the official narrative is, before he flew home and had a heart attack and passed away. Now Laura Loomer's over there doing an apology tour in Ukraine. Again, Lindsey Graham, huge proponent of war. We know this. This is all connected, folks. This is all.
Wow.
It very well could all be a reaction where the catalyst was the sudden death of Lindsey Graham. And I don't know that for a fact, but boy, this all feels like a giant psyop to me. A giant psyop. And so now what are we doing? In honor of Lindsey Graham, in honor of his life, the United States Congress is now passing new sanctions against Russia that Lindsey Graham wanted passed. Alexander Stubbs says Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal, I love to say his name because I refuse to pronounce it correctly, because Blumenthal sounds like a nice pack of cigarettes.
Blumenthal is such a tool.
Richard Blumenthal, in his sanctions package, moves forward in the Senate with a clear bipartisan majority, 86-12. It was an honor to participate in the discussions with President Zelensky and the senators. So Zelensky and Benjamin Netanyahu were both at the White House yesterday meeting with President Trump. I believe they met separately, but who knows? Officially, they met separately. Who knows? Okay? There is something going on here, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you. Jack Basovic writes, Zelensky clearly wants to get the U.S. to escalate the conflict in Iran to us into direct conflict with Russia by combining these military efforts. And then here is a snippet of President Trump and Sean Hannity at the funeral of Lindsey Graham yesterday. See if you notice anything.
He was extremely hawkish. I will tell you, he never saw a war that he didn't like. Only his true friends would understand that, but he wanted it for the good of our country.
Lindsey, he was often unfairly characterized as a warmonger. I've heard that false criticism a lot. It's not true. The truth was the opposite. Lindsey desperately wanted and talked to the president about a lasting peace in the Middle East. He wanted every region, every country in the region on that path to peace. That was Lindsey's dream. If people would only listen to what he had been saying.
He was extremely hawkish, I will tell you.
Yikes.
It was the best of times and the worst of times.
Think about the yin and yang.
The tale of two cities. Ladies and gentlemen,
Jeez.
kudos to Trump for just like saying the truth about Lindsey and how he loved war versus Hannity, who, good grief, man. How do you even, I mean, I know you're trying to respect a guy that you knew and were friends with, but come on, don't try to rewrite history. That's ridiculous. You're never going to convince, like, nobody's like, well, I thought Lindsey Graham was a warmonger, but then I listened to Sean Hannity's speech and I realized I was wrong. He was for peace. I mean, seriously, right? Like, why even put that in there? Why not say something else? I don't know. Like,
Poor Sean. That's terrible.
Oh, man. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about this idea of tying it together? We could look back on the funeral of Lindsey Graham, coincidentally, not ironically, but kicking off World War III, because you had Bibi, you had Zelensky, and now you've got this combined with this weird social media tour that Laura Loomer's doing, trying to rehabilitate the image of Volodymyr Zelensky to MAGA, is so strange.
There's going to be a tipping point. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
There are tipping points. And there's going to be... Remember when we got that fake AI video where when we first saw it, we're like, oh my goodness, did they just bomb and kill Zelensky?
Yeah, we thought,
remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like, it's going to take something like that. And I mean, 5,000 people are dying a week over there if President Trump's numbers are correct.
Yep.
I mean, over the course of 4 years, what's that?
Oh, it's
million 40,000 people.
It's millions of Russians, but it's way more Ukrainians. It's just so many dead.
So many people. Eventually, there will reach a tipping point, and it'll be like, okay, like something's going to give, and something big's going to happen, and then the dominoes will really fall.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely
we'll have to
think you're
figure
right.
out what our response is. What are we going to do?
Right. I know. I think you're right.
How are we going to get involved? We can't. We're not going to play it like FDR did in World War II, and just sit back patiently and wait for us to take a hit. So I don't know.
Hang on one second. I'm looking up something that I meant to pull for the show about this. Yeah, here it is. This is actually where I got this. So a friend of the show, Brian Norris, who was on last week, he posted this on Facebook. And if you haven't listened to that podcast with Brian Norris, you need to go back and listen to it, especially when we did talk about his run for Secretary of State. But we talked about, when we got into the Iran war thing, him being a former, retired active duty, he was active duty for years, like, he really knows his stuff and was able to talk about this in an intelligent way. Yeah. So he posted 9 hours ago. He says, "Are we going to look back and say yesterday will be known as the start of World War III? I'm not fear-mongering. This is a solid question to ask based on the landscape. World wars do not suddenly start. They creep in very slowly. Usually it's well after the start when we recognize it for what it is, a war." Yeah, right. I mean, that was true. I think that was definitely true of the Civil War. When we say that the Civil War started historically, nobody was calling it a Civil War.
Right.
It wasn't until a long time after, in the midst of the conflict, that they said this. He says, yesterday, Trump, Zelensky, and Netanyahu all met at the White House. All three have been involved in semi-isolated regional conflicts. That was until this past weekend when Ukraine struck Iranian vessels in the Caspian Sea. In the Caspian Sea were not linked. Now they definitely are, based on public statements from all sides. So we now currently have the USA, Ukraine, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Yemen, all involved in kinetic operations that have now crossed lines into one conflict. And don't forget North Korea. They have troops staged in Belarus, apparently thereby pushing this from Eurasia into Asia proper. It does not appear any de-escalation will happen soon. In fact, with the Houthis bombing of the Saudis' main refineries, which is further straining global oil supply, one can surmise a forced escalation will be in the works. So what does this even mean for us? Was this the plan, and hence the mandatory draft? ? There are some reports out there that there's some sort of AI push to figure out how to best mobilize quickly. AI getting our young people to be drafted. Is this where $5 trillion in debt was spent since Trump was elected to prepare for this eventuality? Is this why, for the first time since World War II, the USA is negative debt to GDP? I don't know, but when objectively looking at the geopolitical landscape, the only thing I can see is a major global war, which I hope and pray never happens. If you hear me say anything today, pray for our country and pray for peace. Pray for peace. Pray for peace. But I will say this, and I don't know anything really. I haven't looked into much of the reports about a potential draft or whatever. I mean, I know you automatically get registered for it now, whereas when we were growing up, Eric, you had to go register with the Selective Service. I believe you're automatically registered for it now. I will say this. Everything I know, the limited military contacts that I do have, everything I know says we do not have the manpower to wage a giant land campaign. We just don't. We haven't been putting our money into the Army the way you would need to if you were going to do a Desert Storm or in Iraq or Afghanistan. We haven't been doing that. And so if we were to get involved with boots on the ground, past what we already have, which would just be small incursions. This is one of the things Brian Norris said. We don't really have the ability with supply chain and our whole mentality to get in there and stay for a long time, but you could send ground troops in and you could hit them in the mouth real hard, kill everybody, and come home, and then do it again, then do it again, then do it again, then do it again. You could do that. Obviously, I think you would also have loss of life when that happens, because that's what it's what happens when you put soldiers on the ground. People die quicker. But if you really did want some massive campaign, you would have to have a draft at this point because of the state of our forces today. And you look at Russia, you look at Iran that's got 1 million men. You look at Russia that has, what do they have? How many troops? Do they have 1 million people right now? Does Russia have the largest active army on the battlefield since World War II? They have it right now.
Huge.
So, I mean, if you're looking at that and you actually want to go nose to nose, but how do you do that without nuclear bomb? How do you do that without scorching the sky and literally destroying everything? This is crazy talk. This is crazy talk if this is legitimately being considered. But my point is my only point with the whole draft, I don't know if that's real or not, but all I'm saying is if you do decide to wage a giant war, you have to have the draft, because we don't have the manpower that we once did, because everything's gone towards Air Force drones and that sort of thing. Not enough to drones, as we're finding out. Not enough at drones. We're finding out real quick, fighting this new wave of warfare, that spending all our money on aircraft carriers that can't even get close enough into the country we want to attack is not been a good idea. Is not with the topography of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, it's not conducive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We pray for peace. Pray for peace. Pray that all of the talking points that we heard in the 2024 election about ending wars, ending forever wars, slamming the neocons, slamming their hubris. Pray that resonates and we don't do this. Eric, I'll give you the last word, sir.
We got to give President Trump credit. He has ended how many wars?
Okay. Yeah, he did
on smaller scales.
Yeah.
He always brings up the Congo and a few other places, and I don't mean to take away from.
Well, you did have India and Pakistan.
I don't take away from his ability to be very diplomatic and to be forceful and engaging in those conversations for peace. And I think he should be nominated for and is being nominated for the Peace Prize, and I think he should win it. But
really, hang on.
He really has to get.
You think he should win it at this point? That's a bold statement right there.
I mean, the nominations were in based on what he had
previously done.
Yeah. Now that you went in and
sorry, I just showed Rob's empty Clint Eastwood chair. My bad. I forgot.
Now that he's slamming Iran. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
Sure.
I always appreciate you being with us.
Great conversation.
And we'll catch you again the next time.
God bless you.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. I'm going to reset here. Going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment. This is the Paul Harrell Program.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them, because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba, so we were really fortunate to find Pet Club and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club, and we just really appreciate the healthy food that they make, so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. It's a privilege, honor, pleasure to be with you. Broadcasting from the state of Arkansas. And I say it still loud and clear. Maybe not clear. But brisket prices are still too high. They're still too high. So I don't even care really what happens anymore with geopolitics. Obviously, I don't want more war. I want peace. We got a lot of stuff domestically that's falling apart here in this country that we got to deal with. But I don't really care about any of that. I'm totally selfish. All I want is brisket at like $2.98 a pound. Is that too much to ask? I mean, I'd rather have it at $1.98 a pound, but can we get brisket back down to under $3 a pound? Is that possible? Anybody out there? Come on. We can lead a movement just on that. I think we could. Will the barbecue coalition, the American Barbecue Coalition, needs to be the next political party, and we will unite the lovers of smoked meats out there. Yes, we will marginalize the vegetarians, some of them, and maybe even the pescatarians. But who cares about them? I want my brisket below $3 a pound. Come on, we can do this. We can do this. Matter of fact, we need our own T-shirts. We need it all. We need to go after the meat packers, what they're doing to our farmers. That, by the way, is a real grand conspiracy that needs to be dealt with. You talk about arrests. We need to arrest those people. What are they doing? All because of environmental social governance and them, they want us to eat lab-grown meat. We all know this. This isn't a conspiracy. They want you to eat lab-grown meat. Some people think you're already eating lab-grown meat that's being advertised as normal and organic and actually from an animal. But some people, have you seen those videos on TikTok where they pick at the steak or the chicken? You're like, yeah, that does look like it's some sort of 3D printed Dr. Frankenstein monstrosity that, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if it's all said and done, we find out that it was actually Anthony Fauci who was behind all of that. Not just Bill Gates, but Anthony Fauci. So, anyway, some of your comments. Eileen Jimenez, love your show, Paul. Well, I appreciate that, Eileen. Dave 357 Mac, brisket, yes. That's exactly right. I mean, look, I grew up eating pork shoulder, Boston butts, love it. But at some point in my barbecue career, I decided to aim for higher peaks. And that's not to say that there's not any skill involved in cooking some good, pork ribs, spare ribs, baby backs, or a good pork shoulder. There's techniques in that. There's different ways to do it, and I admire them all. But brisket was and is the pinnacle achievement for a lot of reasons. Beef is superior. It just is the flavor of beef. But that particular cut, it's not an easy cut to make taste good. It's not. Pork is much easier to make taste good than a beef brisket. When you have these two muscles that come together, divided by the decal, you've got to find a way to get them done around the same time, and you got to baby it, and it's fun. It's fun to learn. So it's all made a lot easier now that you have these pellet smokers. You guys know this. Made a lot easier now that you have the pellet stuff, which I respect. If you want to do it, get a pellet smoker, get a pellet smoker. I respect that 100%, I still have a stick burner, a very large stick burner, and love it. Love everything about it. Love having to understand what it is to, maintain a fire, clean smoke versus dirty smoke. All of that stuff. I love it all. And I owe it thanks to a lot of great YouTubers that have come and they're very successful. One of them being Mad Scientist Barbecue, Jeremy Yoder. That guy knows his stuff. Also, Brad over at Chud's Barbecue. You got to put in Aaron Franklin in there too. I think he was really the OG guy when I was heard about this thing called the brisket. And This was probably, I've been married 18 years, so this was 17 years. The first year of my marriage, you can ask my wife, it was difficult. It's like something clicked in me. I got married. I have a wife. And all of a sudden, something clicked in me, and I just had this desire to cook out, to grill out every single Saturday, and and it was terrible. I was horrible at it. I wasn't looking up YouTube. I was going but based on what I'd learned, from my grandfather and from my father, who in their own right, they definitely know how to cook some ribs and do some barbecue chicken. I mean, in their own right, very, very good, but they weren't ever doing it indirectly. It was more direct heat type of chicken where the coals are way down below. And that's some of the best stuff you can get, by the way, when the fat renders and hits the coals and you get that smell. I mean, and that's really what a lot of the South over there, and these people over in the Carolinas where they cook the whole pig. That's how they do it, and man, it's good stuff. But I was obsessed, and I wasn't prepared to get into this, but I'll just tell you. I mean, it was my my wife had to tell me to stop. Like, hey, you cannot grill out every weekend, and I could always grill steaks. I mean, who can't grill a steak? Okay, so can always make those taste delicious, better than anything you can get in a restaurant. But at one point, it was one Christmas, and I remember I wanted to. It was one Christmas, probably 2 years into our marriage, and for some reason, I had gotten obsessed with mesquite wood. And I was like, I couldn't be with my family on Christmas Eve. I was with my wife's family on Christmas Eve. I'm going to see my family on Christmas. So my wife's, but I live in town. We live together in the same town. So I was like, you know what? For my family that I can't be there for on Christmas Eve, I'm going to cook them some ribs and just surprise them with ribs. So I, cooked them some ribs. And I mean, in hindsight, I definitely noticed that they were pretty smoky. Like, you go to wrap them up and, your whole house smells like smoke. But I was like, but they're tender. I mean, I got the tenderness right. And so, so I go over to my folks' house and I give them this gift. Here, I cooked you guys some ribs. Lo and behold, I found out that, my brother-in-law, bless his heart, I mean, he ate a little bit, but they were so smoky, they just had to put them outside in the garage. They stunk the whole house up. Because I was using mesquite like an idiot. And mesquite, you guys know, it's very, very strong. You can't cook stuff for hours upon hours on mesquite. It's just not going to work out. And so, and then Christmas came, the day after Christmas came, and my sisters sat me down, and they said, Paul, we need to have an intervention. I said, what are you talking about? I was like, well, your meat tastes like it's been in a house fire. It's not any good. You're not good at this. You're not good at it. I was like, okay. I was like, you're right. I know. It's too smoky. I got to figure out. And that was kind of my base. That was the Dunning-Kruger effect. Are you guys familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect? The idea is, you have a graph here, and when you start to learn a new skill, your confidence is way up here. It's way up here. You think you've got it, right? But as time goes down, as time goes across this axis, your confidence actually dips way down and then comes back up gradually over time. I experienced the Dunning-Kruger effect when I was told that my barbecue tasted like it had been in a house fire. But that set me on a good trek. It was a good American Idol moment where all of a sudden I'm told that I can't sing good. The difference is I didn't have people my whole life telling me I could sing good. I had somebody tell me really early on, you got to get better at this. So that started me on a very long hobby that I am now an aspiring pit master. Now, if you ask Rob Spencer, he will say I am a pit master, but I still think, I still think I'm aspiring. So, Dave 357 Mag says, smart people think they're not smart enough and idiots think they're smart. Dunning-Kruger. There you go. That's good. W. Wilson 1964, mesquite is a spice, so to speak. You add it to your other woods, a little goes a long way. That's exactly right. Definitely. Anyway, I appreciate you guys indulging me. Real quick, there's got to be some more. We definitely have more. Some Anthony Fauci stuff to get to. We didn't get to. We mentioned blue menthol earlier, but we didn't actually get to his clip. He is not happy with Republicans going after Anthony Fauci. Listen to this.
His attorney has been gagged, thrown out of this hearing room. They should certainly be addressed, but not in a show trial.
Dude looks like he's about
not as part of a continuing vendetta against a single individual.
He does not look
In
well.
no courtroom in America can you have your witness plead the Fifth Amendment and then your attorney gets to testify. That's what that letter is. The attorney's complaining and testifying, saying, he didn't do it, the prosecution's unfair. You don't get to do that. That's one thing you give up when you take the Fifth Amendment. You say, I'm not going to testify. I'm not going to give you any information. You don't then get to put your lawyer forward to justify it. He can do it in the press. But you can't come and testify. He was not invited to testify, and he was out of order, and it was appropriate to have him in jail.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us, we covered this in the first hour. Rand Paul kicked the guy's attorney out because, we thought the rules didn't apply to him, which is typical of anybody in Washington, D.C. When they're being held accountable. They don't like to go by the rules. And that's why this whole thing is a sham, even as much as I love Anthony Fauci being a monkey in a cage. When we were the monkey in the cage to him, as we talked about, nothing will happen to this man.
Your diaries now show that you actually suffered pulmonary infarction in, I think, probably June 2021. I was just wondering whether it ever went through your mind that maybe that injection, all those boosters you took, might have caused that. And the question I was going to, and I'll ask this question, were you ever made aware of the fact that Peter Marks was warned that the algorithm was going to hide the safety signals? And were you told that senior FDA officials were given shown dozens of safety signals associated with the COVID injection?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your diaries now show that you actually suffered pulmonary infarction in, I think, probably June 2021. I was just wondering.
That's interesting. That's actually, I missed that. I missed that in his diary, Fauci may have actually suffered from his own vaccine that he was in on distributing to innocents across the world. And you got to think about just all of the kids that have died because of this, or all the kids that have problems because of this. You think about the total deaths of the COVID-19 in general. Also remdesivir, and yet this man, and this is one of those things. We're not even putting him on trial. Kind of an ancient Anglo-Saxon way of looking at things would be, hey, we're going to go after you, but if we can't convict you, we know that that any punishment we can give down here is far lesser than the permanent judgment of the triune God of the Bible, and so we will leave it up to the afterlife, right? And so that's true now. That's still true. What Anthony Fauci has coming for him, in all likelihood, if he does not repent and turn to Christ, is far worse than anything that can be done here to him on earth. However, our government is so corrupt that we are not even going to attempt, in my opinion and prediction, to do anything about this man. And maybe they go after him for contempt of Congress, but that is setting up. If that's what they do, if they go after Fauci for contempt of Congress because he's got a pardon and pled the Fifth, and he only does a year in jail, assuming that any jury in D.C. would do this, we're setting up a really terrible precedent. I've always been for Al Capone and these people. Go after him however you can. I get it. But at some point, it really starts to feel like a slap in the face where James Comey should be on trial right now for treason, and instead he's on trial for seashells in the sand. Okay? This man should be on trial, Anthony Fauci, for mass murder and crimes against humanity, and instead we may get him for a year on contempt of Congress. Oh, okay. Okay. Mike Benz, Fauci is pleading the Fifth today because he only has two choices. Tell the truth that shatters what's left of his reputation, or lie and get hit with perjury charges that his past pardon can't protect. And that's why, and that's the second reason. He knows that. I don't even want to, Fauci talked today. He talked about how this is a witch
I
hunt.
have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing
Who's that over his left shoulder wearing earrings? Is that a man wearing big dangly earrings?
Embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion
or is that a woman?
I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated.
Yeah, anyway, that's exactly what Mike Benz is saying there. Then there's Josh Hawley. We already played that clip for you. And here's Rand Paul on the obstruction.
The chairman has denied your assertion of privilege and directed you to answer, but you nonetheless refuse and stand on privilege despite the existence of the pardon. The committee will have to consider after this hearing what appropriate action should be taken against you for the failure to testify after being directed to do so. It's against the law to obstruct an investigation of Congress. There will be repercussions to your refusal to testify today. Senator Peters.
85 years old. 85 years old. Here's another clip.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
In the red folder on your table is a copy of Section 192 of Title II of the U.S. Code. Your counsel has been provided a copy as well. That section makes it a crime for a witness appearing under subpoena.
All right, he's basically saying the same thing. And that brings us to the end of our Anthony Fauci. We covered Ukraine, we covered Russia, we covered potential World War III, and the unification of these two battlefronts that are going on before our eyes. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk about flock cameras, a little bit of a preview of tomorrow's show, and the fact, by the way, symbols and names and words have more meaning than most people would like to admit. There's obvious, I believe, fundamentally a spiritual meaning behind a lot of it. But the fact that these cameras are going up in cities all across America right now, and the name of these cameras, the name of the company is Flock. And now Flock is trying to say that people that want to deflock America are terrorists. And you have people doing this in Europe and in America. They're tearing the cameras down. But the fact that the very word, the very name is Flock is so insulting and offensive, but it goes to show you that they want our permission. Hey, your city voted to install Flock cameras. We called them Flock. We're telling you that your livestock, we're telling you that your cattle, we're telling you that your sheep, we're telling you what we're doing, and you signed the contract anyway and put them up everywhere. Now we got to have data centers that we don't know what they're for. We have people saying, no, you need to embrace the data centers. President Trump even said that last week. That the people don't even really know what they're for. We're just told we got to have them. Got to have them. Got to pass the bill to find out what's in it. And I'm just telling you, we're gonna do a show on flock cameras tomorrow, and it's gonna we're gonna go over the rise in these flock cameras that have happened very, very quickly over the last less than 2 years, and what it means. But it really just comes to this this struggle that we have with AI. And so we now have these other reports that AI companies are purchasing large quantities of used and rare books. They're scanning their contents to train AI models, and then they're turning the originals to pulp. The sum of human thought, digitized and shredded. Every book that gets scanned disappears from the physical world permanently. This is the allegation. The knowledge survives only as training data inside a system no one can hold, browse, or resell. What used to sit on a shelf for centuries now exists as weights in a model that might get deprecated next quarter. This is one of the videos here that you see. Them getting rid of the books. Or is this the process to actually scan the books? Because the process to scan the books, I think, looks something like this. Sort of Arabic text. Automatic book scanner. Hey, look at that. This one particularly says, this is Shahanza of the Internet Age. Says, nobody seems to understand this, but I cannot stress enough that a judge told Anthropic that training their AI models didn't constitute copyright violation as long as they transferred the text as long as they transferred the text instead of copying it, legally necessitating the destruction of books. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me, because you're still copying it, but I guess if you transfer it and then destroy it, you haven't copied it. Once again, if that is true, once again, just showing the ridiculousness of our legal system. This person says, developer says, it's completely unnecessary to destroy books when machines like this exist. This book scanner by Treventus, for example, can scan fragile books without destroying it. So yeah, you have one or the other. So people are saying, no, there's different ways. People are saying, no, they're destroying the book because it's more efficient to scan it. And then this person says, no, there's a legal problem. I don't know if that's true. That doesn't make any sense to me. I doubt the veracity of that, but I mean, I suppose that could be accurate. But the bottom line is this is spooky stuff, and I am not here for it at all. At all. No Eva Braun says, buy physical books. That's exactly right. You might as well buy physical movies as well. I'm a big fan of owning my favorite movies. Because I don't want Amazon to have the ability to take them away. Build libraries and get rid of that AI excrement, Dave 357 Mag. Yeah, I mean, we've got libraries, but I'm not a fan of those either because they got a bunch of pedophile books in there for kids. So it's a mixed bag, man. So yeah, we're going to have to be our own repositories. That's all the time that I have for this edition of the Paul Harrell Program. I'll be back here tomorrow. And we'll be covering, again, flock cameras as the lead story unless something else happens in between there that takes precedent. But I've had it on the agenda for a while now, and I've ignored it. So hopefully tomorrow, our lead story will be flock cameras, and we'll talk all about it and the rise of the surveillance state. I want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, Sherrod Chiropractic, and also the Paul Harrell Program powered by HealingVeteransProject.us. Scan the QR code, make your donation today as we light the path to wellness, specifically for our veterans. We'll see you tomorrow.